Okay, we got some stragglers coming in. We're going to give us 1 minute, and then we're going to get started with this next presentation. Let's get started. If you'd like to take a seat, we'll begin this last session of the day, or last set of sessions of the day.
Hello? Does it work? We are going to be starting the session. I'm normally not very good grabbing people's attention. Thank you. So welcome to the after lunch session in the last day. So this is probably one of the most difficult ones. We are going to be talking about what's next in DHIS2. I feel tiny behind this screen, so I'm going to be over here, if that's okay for Grant. And so normally in this session, we talk about the roadmap, right? But I want to start saying that the roadmap is an ongoing process in the sense that it's not something that we start and finish every year. Even though we have a release process, the roadmap is like a train that never stops, and we keep adding things to it. So the roadmap has previous inputs that we are still working on because we cannot solve them in one release cycle. It has technical priorities that we have to keep on adding and maintaining, even though no one asks for them normally. There are strategic decisions that we also have to make in terms of product, like where do each component or the whole DHIS2 has to be addressing or looking at. We also have previous inputs. You know that we have a lot of pending things that are not prioritized. Maybe you don't ask for them every year, but it doesn't mean that we are not going to make them. So we also look at that. I'm going to try this. We also look at that. And then we have new requests, of course. And that's like those are the ones that we see every year, right? Like new inputs, new requests, the voting, and all of that. Today, we are going to talk about that, the new ones, and then introduce you to something that we normally do. We don't normally do in this session, which is the strategic decisions that are actually shaping the roadmap from a maybe more a top-down strategy. So let's talk about new requests. It's not new that what we aim every year, year after year with every version is to support the countries. That's normally the main target that we have. Of course, also the organizations, etc. But at the end of the day, we listen to the countries through the HIS groups. That's the biggest thing. And I think you all know that we do have ranking processes internally that help us identify priorities, etc., for the final roadmap. And then we listen from you, from the broader community, through JIRA, through the COP, through projects, through emails. Like, we have a lot of inputs. But that one is kind of more unstructured, I would say. But this year we did something differently. We wanted to test how would be a voting process with the community. And I think we all want to say thank you because we had a lot of participation, and I think many groups and organizations organized a lot for voting, for contributing. That was very nice. And of course, we still have JIRA and the community. We also look at that. But it was kind of a test to see, okay, let's see how things are. If we ask the broader community, would it be very different or not? Or we were kind of testing the waters there without really knowing what would come up. The results were really nice, I have to say. This is very small, and I am not going to go through all of it, but the slides are shared. And of course, everything is in the tool that we used. But just to tell you what happened behind the curtains, we also had the internal ranking with the HISP groups. And this is the top 20 requests that we get, like the more popular ones, from the HISP groups. And if we compare it with the results from the community, 14 out of the 20 are shared. We were very happy about this. And I mean, it's not surprising, right? Because at the end of the day, the use cases are the same. We are all working or trying to support the same challenges and use cases and problems. But still, there was a bit of a risk. So 14 out of the 20, top 20 from the HISP, 14 in the top 20 from the community matched, which is super good news. It's making our life a bit easier. And then the 6 remaining from the community were also important for the HISPs, with one exception up there. But I mean, we always have exceptions, right? So it's only one. So this was a very, very good starting point. From here, we had like 26 top priorities to look at, in addition to everything that I mentioned in the first slide. So what did we do? We made an impact and level of effort assessment, because I think it's not news to you that we get very different requests. We can get a one-line request that is 3 years of work, touching all groups, data model, analytics engine, and everything. And then we can get a similar one-line request that is one button somewhere to make things easier. And the level of effort and the impact is very different. But for us, these are 2 entries in this list that you saw before. So it's a bit difficult to prioritize and then work with that. So this year we were like, okay, let's get all together and assess the impact that every specific request would have and the level of effort. So we got the core team all together, and when I mean all is all, we got the implementation team, health, LMIS, education domains, and product managers to assess what would be the impact of this feature if it was implemented from my perspective, right? From a health perspective, from an Android perspective, from a tracker perspective, for LMIS. And then we also had the engineering team in the room trying to make a very difficult high-level assessment of a level of effort. Of course, we don't have details, and some things are very abstract, but we were just aiming for days, weeks, months, years. So we kind of did that. And then the purpose was to see, right, how would this look if we compare impact versus effort. Ideally, we want a lot of high impact things, and we will really not pay a lot of attention to the low impact, high effort things. And then here is where we have to sit and talk. So if we represent here the results from the 26 top requests that were made, surprise, they are all where we have to sit and think, right? We either have high impact and high effort, or low impact and low effort. So what is tricky here is that we can do maybe 1 or 2 of the high impact ones. We cannot do more, so we have to be selective. I have made this slide like 3 times, so if I made a mistake with the labels, you can tell me later, but I think you get the idea. So here is where we were like, okay, we have to be strategic here. And it's not that we were not. We have the strategy of the HISP Center, etc. But this year was like, okay, let's make explicit effort on having the selection that we make here. And that's where we are today. We are not today, like right now I'm here talking to you, but we are in the process of reconciling the strategies that we are going to show. The high-level strategies or the high-level priorities for the platform with, so that's a top-down perspective, with the bottom-up requests that we had. And we are trying to map them. I mean, we are going to map them, and based on that, build the roadmap. So yes, we are still building the roadmap. That's why it wasn't shared. But as I started saying, it's not that we are sitting idle. We have a lot of work that we know, and we know some things have to be done. So we are already working on the next version, but the little details are being refined now. So we have 6 high-level priorities, and they touch the different aspects, areas, products of DHIS2. So we are going to have the different product managers explaining us what do we mean with this. I think it's very easy then later to connect actually with the requests that we got. But we want to keep the discussion at this level today to share with you those priorities that you will see reflected in our long-term roadmap, probably after summer. So I think I'm going to stop here and call Scott.
All right.
If you want to use the fancy setup.
First priority. Is this like a panel? Are we just going to sit down?
Yeah, you can.
No, I don't want to stay up here.
Okay. You can stay. You're taller than me. You can be.
Oh, just a little bit. All right. So I'm going to take us to one of the first strategic priorities and kind of talk a little bit about how we're starting to imagine this gets reflected back into the platform and the roadmap. So really, DHIS2, we've been around for a while, and we're kind of starting to have to suffer from our own success a little bit. We have been really good as a DHIS2 community at making more DHIS2. What we have been less good at is making sure that all of these DHIS2 instances that we've been making for all of these programs, for these different projects, speak to each other. And that we get all the data into one place. And that at the end of the day, public health experts, program managers, ministries of health, what they need is most of their data to be in one place. They're from all of their different programs and projects, and they want to do triangulated analytics and just build their informed decisions off of as much different data sources as they can possibly have. Now, our ability to make more DHIS2 instances, again, has been a strength, and it was really quite a testament during the COVID pandemic when we were able to spin up so many different COVID-specific databases and really have a very large impact there. But again, at the end of the day, we're starting to suffer from this a little bit by having everything very fragmented within the DHIS2 ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, I mean within each country, even within each implementation, having a very fragmented number of DHIS2 instances, and having also a lot of data that is sitting outside of DHIS2, maybe in other data capture tools, even just Excel spreadsheets. This situation that we find ourselves in with very fragmented landscape of DHIS2 instances in many countries has actually opened us up to be quite vulnerable to some commercial entities that have that are able to take advantage of the situation a bit. And I think that we need to be mindful that some of these commercial entities are not thinking about sustainability. They're not thinking about long-term support to ministries, but they are definitely appreciating that we have a fragmentation problem within the DHIS2 community, and they are able to build complex, fairly bespoke integration layers and analytics on top of that, right? And they are starting to be relatively successful at this, and we're seeing even now some issues starting to develop around the world about they're being very, very expensive to maintain, them being very, very complex, the ministries not being able to own these bespoke interoperability and integration layers, and it kind of undermining the broader ethos of what DHIS2 is and what we're all here to do, right? So what are we going to do? There's quite a lot of things that we're going to do. We're going to update our implementation guidance. We're going to do a lot of capacity building, training to various HIS groups, to ministries. But we also have to respond with the technology as well. We have to appreciate that fragmentation in many countries is going to be the norm, not the exception. It is very hard to unscramble the egg once you've scrambled it. So it makes a very complex scenario, and complex situations typically require relatively complex solutions. What we're going to do is some of the leading solutions that we've seen for this are pulling data into other analytics tools from various sources, and then figuring out how do we bring that back into DHIS2. One of the things that we're exploring for the analytics roadmap is something we're tentatively calling dashboard types. And these dashboard types, we've done a bit of specking, we've done some investigation. These dashboard types should hopefully enable us to bring in analytics from other sources, say, for example, Superset, or maybe even some of the dashboard apps that have been made already existing in the DHIS2 ecosystem directly onto the standard DHIS2 dashboard. So you can see a bit of a picture there as a proof of concept. Oh, sorry. Oh, you guys have been looking at the wrong thing the whole time.
For the big reveal.
Here's the picture. Yeah. And so, yeah. Well, and we have to give some credit. This is coming through a partnership with BAO Systems and understanding how they're addressing this problem and figuring out how their solution can be produced more generically, made more available to all DHIS2 users. So it's something that we're exploring, but we do see this fragmentation as a serious problem. We do appreciate that there are many commercial entities trying to take advantage of this situation, and we as a DHIS2 community need to respond. If you are ever curious about these commercial entities that I'm talking about that may be talking to you or working with ministries, and you're not sure are they a good faith actor within the DHIS2 community, please do come and talk to us, and we're very happy to help you kind of appreciate the broader picture of who some of these folks are and if you can rely on them or not, from our experience. Okay. There's a little bit of rabble over here. I'm just going to ignore it. All right. The other thing, and that you saw on in Marta's diagram, is there is a very large demand for improved tracker analytics. There's a lot of symptoms that you're kind of dealing with right now because you do not have adequate tracker analytics. For example, you're making thousands of program indicators to do relatively basic aggregations of tracker data, right? This is a symptom of not having the proper analytics that you require. Now, we have stretched the event reports and event visualizer app as far as those poor apps are going to be able to go. We are not going to be able to get you the aggregations, the tracked entity aggregations, the event, the enrollment aggregations that you're currently having to do in program indicators into those apps. We can't add any more to those apps. So what we're planning on doing is building a new combined event reports and event visualizer application that will give you the pivot tables and the various chart types that are appropriate for tracker data, and allow you to produce those aggregations that you're resorting to mostly program indicators to do now. This is going to take a while. This is going to be a lot of work. So we're not committing to timelines, but we are telling you that this is going to be a major focus. And you can actually see from the mock-ups here that we've started to do a lot of the initial design. The back-end team is also very much hard at work already, investigating and implementing new performance strategies, because of course, as we talk about tracker aggregation, we have to talk about performance. We have got to improve performance, and we're introducing new technologies on the back end that will hopefully should dramatically improve performance to facilitate these kinds of analytics going forward. I was supposed to take 10 minutes. Did I do it? Okay. That's it from me. Thanks.
All right, so just making sure we're on the right slide. The microphone's on. Is it? How about now? All right. Yeah, so Scott already started touching on some of those tracker priorities, but I wanted to start out just by highlighting what we know at this point about how tracker is used and how that's driving the strategy. So again, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen massive uptake of tracker. And we're looking specifically only at those that we have some information on based from the HIS network partnerships, the ministries of health that we have connections to. We know that there are over 90 countries, and among those 90 countries, there's over 1,000 government-owned programs that are in tracker. There's much more going on in the NGO space, and there's many more going on in countries that we're not even aware of. But this is at least what we do know. And we've also done from some of our survey work to see that the major use cases that make up the majority of those implementations are around specific health registries and around case surveillance, disease surveillance. These are the major areas where we have millions of users. So this in the tracker world, users are 10 times, 100 times more than what it would be in the aggregate world. You spin up one national instance for a malaria registry, and it's going to potentially have 10,000 users in just one simple program. So for us, that means there's a lot of focus that we want to really put on enabling those use cases, making them work better. The first thing that we know is challenging is about feeding that registry data where it belongs eventually, which is the HMIS. It's the source data for many of the national indicators. It's something that we have always had as the goal to do, and we know it's not easy enough. The tracker to aggregate pathway can be challenging, especially in the kind of fragmented implementations that Scott was referencing. It's difficult from instance to instance. It's difficult to aggregate and import. It's difficult to put them in the right place. We have had many different attempts at technologies to try to address this that have kind of helped us get past a really quick adoption period. But there's more that we need to do to make this seamless. The entire promise of having individual data in DHIS2 is so that it can be source data for the aggregate side. So you'll see us spending a lot of effort on this, improving the tooling, the guidance, the documentation. And this includes, from our side, what we're calling initiatives during this time period, which is where we are combining the implementation team, the research team, the engineering team, working with the HISP teams on a specific problem. And so we'll be going to multiple countries dealing with their challenges in integrating their own DHIS2 data. Another benefit to this will be that the tooling, of course, is meant to be as generic as possible, and that will also be something that we would be able to apply to integrations with other systems. Just generically using the tracker data model as the ability to bring in data from other sources. So of course, tracker isn't everything. It's not covering everybody's individual data, but still much of the data living in other systems is the source data for the HMIS. And we really want to be facilitating that. So there's going to be a lot of effort in those areas. We know, particularly with countries that are rolling out these very massive tracker programs, they're not all able to do direct data entry at the point of data generation, at the point of care, wherever the thing is happening. A lot of this is still paper first and then entered individually into tracker. And the user interface is not good for this. It's not good enough. It's not very quick. We know from the COVID experience, just many months of backlogs worth of paper data that needs to get digitized before it can actually be properly analyzed and used. So we really want to put an emphasis on this experience, on the ability to be able to do quicker data entry from secondary data entry sources, hopefully making the life a lot easier for many of the poor data clerks out there and the nurses, midwives that are at the lowest levels that need to sit down at the end of the week and digitize everything that they've done during the week. So we're really going to try to improve the entire user experience and workflow, This means things like a lot of bulk actions. It means being able to do data entry in list format, being able to edit, for example, within working lists. There are a number of ways that we're going to try to tackle this to make it easier. And we want to really speed up the process to get that from paper into digitized form much quicker than it currently is. And then Scott spent a fair amount of time talking about this. Tracker analytics has always lagged behind because, of course, aggregate was the starting use case for DHIS2. It was also the predominant use case for many years. Everybody had an aggregate instance, and then some had tracker. So there's been rightfully the resources dedicated to the aggregate side of data analytics. But at this point, we're lagging way behind. There's much more that people want to be able to do with their individual data than we have the ability to do. So Scott mentioned some of the ways that we're going to try to tackle that on the analytics front. Part of it is truly a performance question as well, just making sure that the tools that we already have are actually more performant and we can make sure to run the kinds of queries and analysis that you want. And then a third aspect of this that isn't new analytics and isn't speeding up is the ability to utilize external analytics more easily. There's been a lot of innovation in this community and crowd using R, using Stata, using other statistical analysis for your individual level data. There have been apps made. There have been a lot of attention paid to that. And we want to improve that experience. Part of that is the extensibility approach. Part of it is our export and import tools. So trying to do a lot more to make it so that you can do the analytics that you need to where you need to, but the HMIS won't lose out on it. The DHIS2 will continue to be the source for the national programs. So those are the areas where we're going to be focusing a lot. And as I said, it's not just development, it's as a core team. We're going to be working with a lot of your countries and a lot of your programs. If these are areas that you have as specific pain points or priorities of your own, reach out. We really want to be able to identify some of the strongest cases to learn from and to make sure that we build solutions that actually work. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Austin.
You guessed it, I'm here to talk about extensibility. Extensibility is one of the key strategic areas that we want to focus on as well in supporting all of you and the ecosystem of contributors that are out there, both in terms of contributing code to DHIS2 core, but also building extensions, building applications, customizing and adapting to the local context, which we know is critically necessary for making something that's actually usable in the field. Some of the main goals of the extensibility are to reduce the need to fork DHIS2, either an app or the core itself, right? This is something that has been possible to do for a long time. There are many of you probably who maintain forks and probably realize how difficult that can be to take the upstream changes that are in DHIS2 core itself or in the application, make sure you're staying up to date. This ends up with a lot of people on very old versions with security issues, lots of things like that, as well as not being able to take advantage of the continuous improvements that we're making throughout the platform. So one of the main goals of building a framework for extensibility is to make it easy to customize and adapt to the local needs without needing to basically create a copy of what you already have or what we already have. The second part is to make it easy for developers to build, maintain, and share their extensions and their innovations, right? So this is something that the platform has been doing for some time now in order to try to make it as low cost and low effort as possible to build something that you can then share with the community, you can maintain over time, so it's not going to be something that you build and then it breaks 3 months later. And to be able to share that with other people that are going to implement and use those extensions in different countries. So this creates an ecosystem of different contributors to be able to develop the suite of applications that we all use and we call DHIS2. Even though DHIS2 is just the foundation of that, there's many more applications and extensions built on top of it. And lastly, this is also very critical for our own pace of innovation as we build applications as the DHIS2 core team. As we talked about, continuous release allows us to, while we are making sure that the core itself is very stable, we're maybe slowing down the release cycle to a year, for example, we can continually improve and build the pace of the changes that we make to applications and make sure that we can get bug fixes and new features out to you as quickly as possible. So I just have a couple ways we're going to go about this. The first mentioned already some new extension points that we have in version 41. We're going to continue to build and formalize and kind of define the APIs for new extension points within DHIS2 so that you can build smaller and smaller pieces to customize just the things you need. So we talked about plugins in the capture application. We have also applications in the web. We have applications in Android using the SDK. We have plugins on the dashboard that have been around for a long time. There's also extension points or ways to do things on the server side to extend the business logic of the API to be able to persist data over time. And we'll be continually adding more of these to make more types of extensions possible. And particularly to be able to combine these different extension points into a full-featured extension that takes advantage of all these different places that you might need a plugin in the capture app, a plugin on the dashboard, an application, maybe an Android application, a custom namespace in the data store, lots of things like that. And we'll be adding more of these. And the second piece of work that we're going to embark on is to build reference implementations for some types of extensions that we know people want to use. This is not necessarily to be the only way that you interact with a civil registry, but to give people an idea of how they could build that, right? So to give them a starting point, a template, and then they can adapt it to their local needs and use it in the extension points that we develop. So there are a lot of ways that we can, or different types of use cases that we can build reference implementations for. We have been doing this already in the integration team with Fire, for example, in a number of cases. There's other ways where we can interact with different terminology services, WHO drug, ICD-11, those types of things. There's already an example that was shown in the developer meetup or developer session earlier today about interacting with a civil registry. A lot of these are very common use cases, but they're also very slightly different in each implementation. So we want to make it easy for you to get started and then to adapt that to your local needs. And then the last piece of work is continuing to support the community of contributors that are all of you. That's developers, that's also implementers and users of the extensions that those developers are making, allowing those developers not only to contribute to an ecosystem or a library of applications that everyone can use, but also to start to contribute to some of the core things that we're doing as well as we break that up into smaller and smaller pieces as well. I was really impressed with the developer session today because this isn't typically a conference that has a lot of sessions that are targeted to developers, but the room was full. And there are so many more people out there that were online in that session as well. I think the community is really growing, and we want to support that community to support all of you and to build something that we can all share in the innovations that are being made. So with that, I'll turn it over to David. Thank you very much.
Do I have a green light? All right, good afternoon. All right, the next initiative I'm going to talk about is supporting countries to upgrade. So we know that upgrading is hard. We know that there's a lot to it, but we're looking at having a really focused initiative on how we can help get countries more up to date. So this involves a lot of things. This isn't just a software solution. This isn't something that we can change in the software that's instantly going to make it easy to upgrade and by one click. But we also know that it's not necessarily a gap in understanding of how to upgrade. Bob and the team have a 12-step plan. We can tell people how to upgrade. That's quite, is it 12? 11s. There's a plan, but just knowing the plan's not quite enough. It's how do we implement it? How do we go about identifying why people aren't implementing it? And so that's about really, we're going to be looking at how we work with you, with countries, with HISPs, to identify those blockers. Where are they? How are they the same for some countries? How are they different to other countries? And how do we go about addressing them and getting them fixed to get up to date? So the other part of this is building more trust in the releases. So we're looking at releasing more stable platforms. Going to the annual release cycle means that you've got 3 years to be on a current release instead of just 18 months. So we've got a lot longer that you can be on a stable release. We're also looking at improving our base testing so that we have got more tests involved, that you'll have a little bit more confidence in that first .0 release. So, we know that that's hard as well. That takes time. I think the quote I heard yesterday, I think it was a UNESCO representative said, what is it? Trust comes walking, but leaves running. So it is going to take a little while to build that back up to get the confidence that people can upgrade straight to a .0 release. But a really important part of building that is also the beta testing program that we've got. So we've got some countries involved. It had been a closed practice before, but we're opening it up. So we're going to have, so if you're interested, please let us know. And the more real world examples that we have of testing, so we've got real countries with real data, real databases. We're finding bugs before we release. The more of that we can do, the more confidence we'll have that when we come to release, it's a fully stable version. So yeah, so we'll be working on you with this. So keep posted and let us know. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the strategic support for domains. So we do know DHIS2 is used for a lot more than health. We have got lots of domains going. We've got education, logistics, and of course, climate is the big new area. We will continue to expand on these extra domains, and we're looking at ways that we can better use the software support. That's not just building new functionality into core. It's how do we support the extensibility and the developer network to help build solutions to this. It's looking at things like the CMIS app that's being built out of Mozambique. How do we better integrate support within the core system and within our core teams, but still supporting the development that's coming from external areas. So we're looking to maximize the functionality without necessarily relying on just the changes coming to core. With the climate, I'm sure you'll hear more about that later today, but we are looking for partners from a technical point of view and from a community point of view to grow that. And health and climate is a new domain. This is something there's not a lot of people out there that are doing this already, so it's emerging. So we're looking at how we can understand how this is evolving and be involved from the start. So I think with that, it's back to Marta.
And this is the last one. But before that, I want to give a heads up to Max that we might finish earlier because my colleagues have been quick. And I don't think I can talk for 12 minutes about this. So we can see if we do questions or what do we do. But so yes, user experience is the last strategic area where we want to focus on. Is historically maybe the one that we have, historically, I mean like long-term history, not really focusing on, making the screens better and the interaction with the user. But design is in many occasions like overlooked. It's not about making things pretty. Some people understand it as making things pretty, but it's not only that. User experience starts there. User acceptance starts there. Data quality also starts there. You can avoid mistakes with a good design. So we want to improve, keep improving. Many efforts have been made in the last years on this area. Still a focus. We want to keep working on that. So any activity related to the user-facing part of the DHIS2 is going to be addressed by this initiative. It also affects, there are a few specific goals that we have. One is very, very particularly connected to the strategy that Mike was mentioning before. None of these areas are isolated, right? They all touch in different levels. So secondary data entry is something that, of course, is doable, but can be better. So that's something we are going to be addressing from that perspective, but also the user flow Flexible workflows, that's a really big challenge. And maybe that's one challenge that we have to address with an extensibility lens. So connecting now with Austin's, maybe we cannot do everything within DHIS2, but we know different user flows are required, and we have been receiving requests for the need to give different user experiences, give different flows for different use cases. We can do some, but not all. We are going to be focusing on that as well. And then last, translations. So Phil, that was here before we talked over lunch. But translations, I mean, that's everything, right? And it's been there for a long, long time. Yes, you can translate everything, but sometimes processes can be improved. Also, the way in which translations are updated, it could be more flexible. This can also talk extensibility at some point. So just saying, we want to improve also these mechanisms of translation, make them more agile, more easy to integrate, easy to translate. So all those areas are going to be targeted from a user experience perspective. And this is the last of the 6 strategic priorities that we are going to be looking at. And it doesn't mean anything out of these ones will not be made. Remember, we had a lot of low effort things here. We can look at those as well. But the roadmap is going to be built looking at this and trying to have a history to tell around these areas. So I'm going to move to my last slide. Just to say thank you. We were very, very happy and surprised with the response on the voting process for the roadmap. It really helps us. Like, we know from the community, etc., but quantifying sometimes is good. And it was in this case. It's a really good proxy for us, and we think we can, or we want to continue working on those lines. So we are now, as you know, we used a new tool, Discovery, for the ideas, where you were suggesting ideas, voting ideas. That was kind of a test for us, but we have so far liked it. So we will most likely remain in that discovery world and ideas world for managing the requests and the features. So we will probably move out from Jira features to ideas. And we are planning to be more agile in the way we triage the ideas. So I think I have heard, at least from some people during this week, that you feel more agility on the bags. Like now the backlog is smaller and things are, you see action on the Jira issues when you report a bug. We are aiming for the same from the product side. We want to move requests and inputs to the ideas concept, and we are setting up processes to go through it regularly. Of course, there will be probably an annual roadmap effort, but this is a continuous process for you in the projects and for us in the roadmap, as I started saying now almost 1 hour ago. So thank you very much. I think we are looking forward to keep listening, keep improving, and we know the roadmap feels slow. You are a lot of projects, a lot of people. Every new thing might help a few of you, not the others. Whenever it works, we are very, very happy to listen, very happy to help. Or should I say we are helpy? That's my new favorite term. But yeah, I think that's it from us. And what's next? We will also publish results and everything in that tool, in the discovery tool. But this is all going to get through you through the COP. So don't worry now. And what's the time? How ahead am I? 10 minutes ahead. Keep going. I can talk. I mean, I don't know, questions? No, I don't have much more to say about this. So maybe I can ask, how did you find the voting process? Anyone who wants to share? Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Come on. No, but I'm just waiting for eye contact to know what to do. Okay, so they are taking over and using these 10 extra minutes. Enjoy.
How does it work again? To unmute. Marcus. Marcus. Can you hear me? We're just logging into Mentimeter. Get ready to give some feedback. Yes.
What are you talking about?
You know, say something.
Say something to the audience, please.
So you're all used to this at the last day. As you know, we also usually do the Kahoot, but I'm hoping many of you were here on Tuesday and we did it then, and we had some great winners that will get some prizes.
Yes.
But now we'll do the regular Mentimeter feedback. So please just be as honest as you want. So yeah.
Yeah. So don't hesitate to share your feedback. It will definitely help us to improve the conference, the next annual conference. So, and we hope you had a great time during this week with us in Oslo, and you are ready to party in a couple of minutes, please. Yes, don't be shy. We're going to start in a couple of seconds.
Right, so you see the QR or the code. It's like self-paced, so you can just start answering, all the questions, and we'll go through it in a leisurely speed.
Yes, if you can scan the QR code and don't hesitate to click on the heart so that we know how many people are with us. 7,
Yeah.
10.
Oh, this is good.
Please go ahead.
Fast joining.
We know we are more than that in the room, so yes.
Yeah.
No feedback,
no
no drinks. So come on. We need more than that.
The internet is good, right? Like no internet problems now. All right, should we
Yeah, let's
start moving on
maybe
to the questions? We hopefully have some answers so far.
Yeah. Did the 2024 annual conference meet your expectation? Yes, 100%. Yes, more or less what I expected. Partially, but a bit disappointing. Not at all.
Yeah, seems like maybe there's people that have been here a few years and they kind of know what to expect and everything. So, but overwhelmingly good feedback.
Very good.
All right, next question. All right, here we have some good comments on how it did or did not meet your expectations. Most sessions were good, many different user experience, broke some silos, cold. Yeah, sorry about the weather. Those of you that were here last year, that was the exception, I have to say. I'm sorry, when it was really warm. So, yeah.
More dev sessions, please.
Yeah.
Salad every day. But salad is good for health.
There's another.
Like healthy is the way to go, please.
Also, there's another question specifically about the food later, so you can add it,
Yes.
add it again there. All right, let's move on.
Let's move to the next.
Yeah, but
one,
these are all
maybe.
great. We review them all.
What do you think of the length of the conference? 4 days is good format. It was too long, 2-3 days would be better. It was too short, make it a few days longer. So it seems like 4 days is the good format. So that's good.
Yeah,
we're happy.
Yeah, I think we have settled on that being pretty a nice
Yeah.
amount of days. So what type of sessions did you like the most? So plenary, parallel, the networking session, and then I saw you added the quiz. That was very nice of you. But yeah, so it seems like parallel is the most popular, which you get. You get to go in here, you have a lot of choices, almost too many choices sometimes. It's hard to choose, but yeah, great. And
Yeah.
also some parallel and networking.
Were there enough plenary sessions? It was the right amount. I would like fewer. I would like more. So it seems like it was the right amount. So that's good. Moving to the next question. Were there enough parallel sessions? Right amount, fewer, or more? So I think it's the same trend here. It seems like we had enough parallel sessions. Moving to the next question. Were there enough networking, poster, and expert lounges? Same again, it seems like it was definitely the right amount of networking, posters, and experts lounges. I remember like during the feedback last year, many participants had expressed the interest in having more networking activities. So this is really something that we try to take into account this year. So we are happy that it seems to be appreciated.
Yeah, but also quite a few that would like even more, it seems like.
Yeah. Please share how we can improve the networking posters and experts lounges. For instance, less posters, more sessions. WhatsApp group for social events. This is a good idea.
I feel like I know who wrote that. And I also saw 9 a.m. start. I don't know if yeah.
More sessions. Pre-scheduled meeting. Speed dating will be interesting. I guess it's professional speed dating, right?
You never know. You never know. All right, next question.
Yeah.
So, would you like to see any other types, formats of sessions in addition to plenary, parallel, and networking? So, seems like quite a few yeses. So, I guess maybe next slide is interesting because then we get to see what are some of the things they propose. Hmm? Oh, this scrolling? Yeah, that's automatic.
Yeah.
No hands. Yeah. Oh, but we will of course take all of this and do a thorough review of it. So.
Yes, exactly.
But I've seen a lot of demos. People like demos, so that's good. And some beer again. So we.
Group discussions.
Yeah.
Workshops. Maybe we can move to the next question.
We can move to the next.
What were your 3 favorite sessions this year?
Yeah.
Climate health.
Developers.
Data quality. Tracker. Education.
Yeah.
That's good. Analytics, I see. That's good. Let's move to the next one, maybe.
Yeah. Any topics or themes that you would have liked to see this year that we didn't cover? Looks like no and none are the biggest. I see some. They're also moving fast here, but data security, more technical sessions, more concrete. What's next? Maintenance, yeah. Lots of. Oh, I saw usability there. Whoever said that, I will take that.
Take notes.
Yeah. All right. We were over. Sorry.
We were over 375 participants, knowing that last year we were 352. So good increase. We're happy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good number? It worked very well. I think 350 was too many. I think we can be more.
People like growth.
Yeah.
So they want to be even more. Not so many things. It's too many. So that's good.
Maybe those who said that can help me on the logistics part.
Here's the food question you were all waiting for.
Should be. What did you think of the quality of the food? Very bad.
I see.
Okay.
All.
Too much salad. Okay. Bad.
Too cold. Prefer it hot.
But I have to say that it's
Stuffed
quite
meatballs.
difficult to please everyone when it comes to food because there is such a large, like, we are so diverse as a community, which is like great and amazing. But then we can meet some challenges when it comes to food because pleasing people from Norway to Indonesia, going through Africa, you know, it's like you have to understand also, like, but we're trying hard and we'll try harder next year.
People want the Norwegian taco, so
No, Norwegian taco, yeah.
all right. We
Okay.
can maybe just move on to the next.
Yeah. So let's close the debate and let's
Yeah, I
move
was
to
like,
the
let's
next
move
one.
on before.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
So-
What do you think of DHIS2, the annual conference app we use for the agenda? So it was great, made it much easier, and it was okay. It was useful. I prefer the good old Word document, and I didn't use it. Actually, we did print agendas this year.
Yeah,
so you
yeah,
could use
yeah. You
the
could
Word
use, yeah.
document. Some people didn't use it. I'm very impressed that they're here. if they didn't use it, no. But again, you had the agenda in the printed as well. So yeah, great. Next one.
Your general feedback, suggestions for improvement. Please don't mention the food. We understood.
After food,
How can we improve?
I feel like there's like lobbying going on right now.
Yeah, I feel like there is a kind of.
Yeah, but also more stories from the field. I saw a translation to Spanish. Again, more demos.
More demo.
Yeah. Great. We'll take all of these
Into account, definitely.
Mhm.
And we'll make
Give
sure
an award to Alice.
Yeah, now you're clapping, huh? That's easy. Thank you.
Next question, I think, is the last one, actually. And we just want to hear from you. What do you think was the most valuable, important thing you've learned at the conference? That's always nice to hear as well.
DHIS2 works.
Kai is really smart.
Oh.
I need to bring my coat next time. And
Marta Villa.
Marta, networking, part of the community, connecting with the community.
AI. Data quality app. That's good. Got some new friends. That's nice.
Got speared. Yeah. But I think that's I think that's it for the feedback, right?
Yeah.
Or do we want to keep watching these?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, now we come to one of the other very exciting parts of the day, where we are going to give out some awards. Figure out how to close this. There we are. All right, so this is a new thing we're doing for this year. In the past, we have given out just really one award for the app competition, but we decided that we may as well, since we changed the format of the app competition, also take the opportunity to recognize more people who are part of the conference, part of the community, and celebrate everyone, because this is all about celebrating not just DHIS2 the software, but the people who are behind the software and who make it a real global open source community. So with Alice, we're going to go and recognize people today.
Yes. So we have several awards, and I'm going to start with the first one, which is the DAC 2024 Awards DHIS2 HISP Know It All CAUT winner. And ladies and gentlemen, the award goes to Scott Ruspatrick.
Come on up. Come on up. You maybe stand over there. if you
Yeah.
can, Come on. You get an award and a prize.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
You appreciate it.
honored.
All right, but Scott is kind of like an insider. So we also have an award for our,
The same category, actually. And this award will go to Lauren Fregosi.
for the person who knew the much about DHIS2 and HISP without being directly employed by us. All right, we can get our award later. And next up we have,
We have the award for the Community of Practice winner, activity winner, sorry. And the award goes to Mr. Jim Grace.
all right, Jim, here you go. Good work. And we also have a special additional prize.
And you have a second prize.
That's the real prize.
Yes, some drinks
Yeah.
for the HISP anniversary. Yeah.
All right, next up, we have the winner of the DAC 2024 app competition. Maybe Austin, if you want to say anything about this? No? All right. You know most of the app, so probably best if you explain. It just takes a second.
Yeah, as you all know, we had 3 finalists for the app competition this year, and we had quite a few votes as well on the community practice. So thank you all for those of you who voted. I think we had roughly the same, maybe a little bit better turnout for voting than a lot of political elections in many countries. So pretty decent turnout. We're hoping for getting up into the 90% next time. But without further ado, the winner of this year's app competition is, drum roll please, ICT, metadata sync application. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Special prize for you. Oh, yeah.
What a good prize.
Yes.
Up here.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have, we can't make this conference happen without the teamwork of a lot of the people who are part of the HISP organization. I think we mentioned on day 1 that we got 250 abstracts submitted this year, which is a new record. And we also started a new open category process this year where you could select as many topical categories as you wanted to for your abstracts, which meant that we had to have those reviewed by all the people who were responsible for those different topic categories. So if you had an abstract that was in 15 topics, then there were at least 15 or possibly 20 people who might have looked at it to determine if it was a good fit for one of our sessions. So it was a lot of work. So we also want to recognize the person who did the most of that work in reviewing abstracts of that 250. So our winner for most abstracts reviewed for this year's annual conference is
Ta-da-da!
Victoria. And do you remember how many it was, Alice?
Sorry?
How many abstracts it was this year? I think it was
Victoria, sorry?
more than 100.
Yeah, more than 100. So,
Yeah, there you go. I think
Yeah,
you deserve it. I think you deserve
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you deserve it. Yeah. Well,
All right, and next up,
the next one is the award for the presenter who has hosted the biggest number of sessions. And the winner is, I think, Victoria, you have to come back. Woo! But no drinks because no, you can't have it twice. Stefano.
okay.
And then the next award is the award for the participants who has checked in the highest number of sessions, sorry. And this award will go to Mr. Kevin Harris. We can give it to him.
Yep. Might be online. All right, and now we were also saying we were trying to encourage people to.
Ah, it's coming,
Oh,
it's coming.
okay. There we go, Kevin Harris.
Nice.
Um,
Congratulations.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, next award is for the most active on the community practice during the conference, so specifically about the conference topics and abstract posts and activities. We saw a lot of great activity this year and a lot of people posting abstracts and commenting on them, so that was really excellent. And we want to give this award to George Mbevy. And also ICT for being the most active organization on the COP. If anyone wants to come down, you can get the certificate. All right.
Sorry.
All right. And most active on social media. We've seen a lot of great posts, a lot of great photos being shared. And for this award, the winner is?
The winner is Martin Lamuzzo.
All right, Martin's on his way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another award for ICT for being the most active organization on social media. You guys just love being here. I think they might have a media person back home. It seems like they have a.
Thank you.
All right, and finally,
Finally.
We couldn't put on this conference without a lot of volunteer work.
Yes, they have helped us tremendously to make this annual conference possible, from the preparation to the final delivery. So please help me to give this award to the team at University of Oslo who have helped us. Some of them are in the room, but some actually still working to put together all the elements for the party. So I would like to ask all my colleagues who are in the room, and Scott, and all the others, Rita, Rachel, if you are here, please join me on the stage so that you can get some recognition for the hard work you put into the annual conference. Sorry, I don't have all the names now, but I think you will recognize yourself. Carolina, exactly. Please come, Rachel, Thomas. I don't know if Rita is with us. Sian is with us.
We're there for you.
And of course, we all know the real driving force behind this event is our one and only Alice.
Dirk, yes, and
Alice,
Nina.
We also want to make sure that you get recognized for all the hard work you put into this event.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you.
So that's the end of our award ceremony. Thanks all for participating. And we do have one more session today inside, which is going to be the 30 years of HISP panel. And Kristen, what time do you want to start that? We're running a little bit early. Yep. So we'll start. Yep. So we'll start at the scheduled time back at. So we'll begin the panel back here at 3 o'clock. So you have 45 minutes for a coffee break.
Please bring your friends. Can you hear this one? Please, you can. So please tell your friends to come in. Exciting thing will happen. All the HISP groups need to come up here in front because you will be called up, yeah? Timeline, Emilio, Severino. Closer, closer, closer. Adam, you can sit in front. Emilio, is it working? Emilio and Severino, you can just sit here. Do we have control over Kalle? Kalle, is Kalle in the room? No. No? Ah. Mm. Ola?
You want to turn it on?
Ja, men vil du ha den? Ja, jeg har en til deg. Kalle, you can come a bit closer. Kalle, come closer. The party starts soon. Some shades are. Are we all here? Oh no, it's very loud. Maybe a bit less loud. Since I'm shouting-ish. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone for this last plenary session, actually the last session before the party. And everybody knows that the HISP community loves partying, but are also very good at it. So look forward, and this one we are stepping it up because it's 30 years anniversary. But before we start, we just want to send some thoughts to the Malawian population, country, and the group, Malawian group that is here. As you have followed the news, the vice president of Malawi, plus 8 people, died in the crash. So we have warm condolences from the DHIS2 community to the Malawian population, and of course the Malawian group that is here. Okay, so then we are switching gear from condolences to celebration. So we are here now wanting to share a bit of our proud history when it comes to how did we build this network? How have we been able to support 88 over ministries of health with doing health information systems, and now education, agriculture, climate health, and others? How has we been able? So we would like now to do, as a joint effort, try to portray the history with stories, how it all started, and with the people that were part of the starting, and all the HISP groups representatives will eventually end up at the stage in a historical sequence. However, sometimes we might mix it a bit, so beware with me, and then I will try to manage Jörn and Kalle and the rest, which all of you knows that's a bit difficult. But we will tell stories from the history, and we will start with Jörn coming up on the stage. Oh! And I will just tell also, I mean, even though he's very shy, we also have Norad in the room, and we all know from the opening 4 days back that NORAD has supported us from the very beginning. But it all started in 1994. How did it start, Jörn?
Well, no, I mean, the reason why it's sometimes good to look back, it's that it might bring some lessons for the future. And I think that is what I just want to repeat here, that it's for the future. We are actually learning from the past. And yes, how it started, I mean, there are some key issues. One thing is that we started based on something we called Scandinavian approach to information system, which is actually based by our professor Kristen, who died a couple of decades back, but it was starting here, and it was about bottom-up development, community-driven development, participatory design, looking at the information system as both being social and technical, and the socio-technical approach. So that was one part of it. And then I started with my PhD and defining my PhD, and that was actually together with this Kristen Nygaard. So I was looking for cases, and it was action research. And at the same time, I was actually working in Tanzania, and we developed this idea about the district-based information system and applied to NORAD, but that didn't really work. And then I tried many places. But then I met in a conference in Nigeria key people from the new South Africa, or coming South Africa Ministry of Health, and some of these comrades from the exile who had turned home. And they invited me to South Africa, and there, because what was the idea with my PhD research was to focus on district health systems. I tried many places, and action research. But that was difficult to kind of implement alone. So discussing with these South Africans, because in ANC health plan, the district health system was kind of the foundation, and information was part of it. And then also equity, which was the bearing principle. So that's what actually how it started. We made a proposal, and with these people in Cape Town, University of Cape Town, and what was called something like the Western Cape Reconstruction, etc.
University of Western Cape.
University of Cape Town first, and then University of Western Cape also. So that was actually the start of it. And then we had already from my effort with Tanzania, we had a proposal to NORAD, and they were so. But we worked with the Ministry of Foreign Department, and they promised to support South Africa. So when we came up with the proposal, then they said that is good. But you see now, Mandela has taken over. It's no longer in the Foreign Department, it's in NORAD. So now you have to talk with NORAD. And then kind of it started, but eventually NORAD supported the project. We started in Cape Town, in 3 pilot districts there. And I think what I really want to see is how this start in South Africa, where the focus was on equity, how that is actually forming the approach. I mean, it formed the DHIS, which Kalle will talk about quite soon. And it was about getting data from standardized data from the different parts of the country to then measure achievements towards equity. So what is interesting is, of course, to see to what extent today these old principles of equity and bottom-up development, etc., to what extent they are surviving in the modern HISP. Because when we developed DHIS in the old days, everything was about measuring indicators across racial groups, ethnicities, geographical areas, etc. But of course, when you do tracker today, you're not really focusing in the same way on how to use the data to achieve something good. So that is something we need to I think, lessons from South Africa that we need to bring forward. And that is the ethical part, I mean, also the drive towards equity and bottom-up development. And we started, I mean, the software development in South Africa started a little slowly. And We started with asking people to develop their own system, bottom up, very too much bottom up. But then Kalle came up with this very good prototyping of the DHIS version 1. And now we will ask Kalle, I think, to come up here.
Come up, and then Kalle can say a few words about how it all started from Kalle's point of view. Then we have... And now we are talking DHIS 1.
Yeah, now we're talking efforts by management to control the speakers, and that never works with me. No, listen, when I came to South Africa to do a PhD on designing information systems for supporting land reform, which turned out to be very difficult because the land reform process in South Africa was a mess, and it's still a mess. So by chance, I was asked to assist Jörn and the other guys. And I said, all right, I can do that. I was having a year as a sabbatical, preparing my PhD proposal, etc. And in reality, I had to use my PhD money. I got a 4-year grant from the Norwegian Research Foundation, and I used that to get the whole thing started. Because UCT, I remember, they paid me like $1,000 over 4 years, which I used to have parties for trainees and other participants, you know, that I was training. I think the critical thing about the DHIS 1 was that it was done there. And you see, I put on an African shirt here because I've lived and worked in Africa for 30 years. It would never have worked without the development, including me, actually being there. So if I had been one of these consultants, you know, parachuting in every 2 months from Norway, it wouldn't have worked. Not initially. Now the DHIS community is a global community. Then it wasn't, and we had to be on the ground. And initially we got a lot of pepper for, hey, these guys, they are even fixing paper forms. My goodness, when management were talking about, you know, unified system, not in the cloud, but up in the cloud somewhere. And I still remember the head director at the National Department. He had the same set of slides for 15 years. He just added to them. I think he had about 170 slides at the beginning, but almost none of it. Telemedicine, all of these dreams were not coming through. So 90% of the capital, the intellectual capital behind the DHIS. And that includes most of the features which are still a core features of DHIS2 and still successful and still the best performing ones for aggregated data. That intellectual capital came from the users. And my role was mostly to actually sort of bring in that prototyping thinking, that user participation thinking, respect users, and always trying to incorporate what was coming from the ground. And you know, that worked, and we gave it away to people. Again, here, a funny story, you know, I look at Pasi from Nigeria, was mentioning it here. We used to, for 15 years, write CDs and give to people with the latest software, including the latest databases, often cleaned up and whatever. And I had Americans and Europeans coming in laughing about these primitive guys down there, right? And they were pointing to their own websites. And I would say, well, you have wonderful websites, but you have no activity on the ground, no data. So we actually developed things organically, slowly. We had very little money, but that also meant the corrupt, you know, people in the system were not really interested in what we were doing. So we were able to actually work and develop things organically. And I think that also became the basis for the whole community. Just one final comment is that something we've lost on the way. I've been thinking, you know, about what I've heard at this conference here. We were much stronger on using information for local action in those years. We were much more focused on how are people experiencing the health sector. Lots of that we've lost. I haven't heard anything. You know, we talk about AI and machine learning and all kinds of things, very interesting. But we've actually lost our ability to work with people. We work too much, and nothing wrong with people in ministries, but we work too much with ministries and with the top brass. and too little with the people that is actually affected by the health sector. And I hope we can start changing that, because at the end of the day, what matters is the people and not the ministers.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kalle. Thank you. You might sit. You would like to sit? You both of you can sit, actually. So that was the beginning. So from 94, 96, developing DHIS2 throughout the whole South Africa. In 2000-ish, it was scaled for the whole South Africa, and the Africa came after. And what happened after that with his community and his network was that we started not only exploring or utilizing Kalle's neurons, actually, scholarships, PhD scholarships. We continued with our friends, NORAD, our new friends at that time, with NORAD coming up with stipend program on masters and PhDs. So then, other countries, we had 6 PhD scholarships from Mozambique. Can Emilio come up? Already in 2000. So Emilio was from that batch. And then it's not only for PhD students, it was also for master students. Then I will call up Severino. And that was Mozambique, with the 6 PhD students and also master students. But then, of course, Severino, he don't go anywhere without Tivonge. And actually, and I didn't know that it was Malawi. I always thought it was Mozambique, but it was Malawi because of all the badge of the PhD students. It was Malawi that was the first country outside South Africa using DHIS. Not 2, 1. I need to learn this one. And then, of course, we continue with this style you see now, the university collaboration, the building in, tapping into people's education, meaning master and PhDs, that was laid the ground for the whole HISP network. So after this one, we also have Tanzania and Ethiopia. Master programs also made there. So we need the Maleke. Maleke, are you here? Said, are you here? Abiot? Yeah, come on, up with you. Ethiopia was also part of this stipend program from NORAD, and was not only the stipend program, but also the NUFU. Noma was later, that was taking over in the 10th or something. So then we also need Tanzania to come up. Who's from Tanzania here? Without Wilfred. Wilfred, he was not even born at that time.
Honest was supposed to be.
But Mr. Tanzania is representing Tanzania. Tanzania was also making master program there, and we have master students from there. So this, you can see, when we are looking into it, that laid the ground for all the HISP groups coming later. That was all started by university collaboration. We need to bring Pamud also up from Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka was also a master program, even though later. But it's very, very important. Same program-ish. Pamud, can you please come? And so these guys, you will see in the end, we have a gender problem. So these guys were the start of the network, starting with the university. But then India came along. John, Saurabh, where's Saurabh now? There's Saurabh. Woohoo! Then John, can you tell a bit about the start of the, Mike is here, a bit of the start of the India adventure?
Actually, again, it was a DHIS2 It started in Kupam, in a very small place. DHIS1. Yes.
Can I just tell that John went in the same class and the batch as Tivonge, as a master student, just so you know. So this is continuum of this university collaboration. And Seferino, sorry, in the same class.
And we started in 2000 in a small place called Kupam in Andhra Pradesh. I was a very young guy with a mustache, pre-globalization. If I show you the photograph of me being there, you will never recognize. And it was true. Even the Tanzanian Zanzibar people didn't recognize me when I lost my passport. Yeah, so we started with a small place. And then, as Kalle mentioned, I was a small developer doing with DHIS2 and trying to build a standard report with the people. in each PHC, which is a primary healthcare center, and like install DHIS2 in 7 places, have my Luna going around to one hospital, to other hospital, because we had only one printer. So connect the printer to the hospital and make the printout, and so the medical officer can sign. So that's how we started in India. And then like we grow to district and state, and then we went to the national level and created the HISP hub.
But he was very dedicated. The only person I know who go to sleep with his laptop.
I still do now.
Sure his wife is pissed off.
I had to change when I had my kid, because like it was very hard to have my laptop next to my kid. So
Too hard, actually, literally too hard.
yeah. So after that one, we went to the HISP India at the national level, and then now HISP Asia hub.
And John normally say, I'm born and raised at University of Oslo, master, and then later PhD. But then we not only talking about our successes, we also need to talk a bit about our failures. Cuba. But who can be successful in Cuba? Not even us. Not even us waiting for 3 decades, we are successful. And then we have Johan and Ola come up on the stage. And I need to say that Johan and Ola, the first time I heard about Johan and Ola was from our father, our dead father. He was so engaged in Cuba. He even learned Spanish to be part of the implementation in Cuba. Jörn and families stopped schools and everything, was on their way to Cuba. And Kolbjørn, our father, said always, my boys. And the boys, they are Ola and Johan.
Thanks, Kristin. Yeah, thanks for calling us on the failure. I think it was George W. Bush Sr. that was the cause of the failure, starting a blockade and defining Cuba as part of axis of evil. And then they wanted to kick out all foreigners, including Norwegians, unfortunately. But we had a lot of fun in Cuba. I think we did a lot of good work. Maybe one story, Kalle, since I know many of our developers here have been struggling with all of Kalle's bug reports. I can say that when we implemented, was it DHIS 1.2, I think 2 something in Cuba, Johan and I, we didn't even always have access to email. So we were sending fax to Kalle with the bugs, and then we would receive a response where we modify this line, and that's how we kind of worked. And he wasn't always responsive, but most of the time Kalle was also dedicated, not even sleeping. I don't think he even slept, Kalle. I think he was sitting by that big computer in Cape Town all the time. Johan?
Yeah, not much more to add. Great to be a failure again. I'm just coming from master examinations and made me reflect a bit on our stay in Cuba, because we were there as master students. And of course, when you do your bachelor here in the Department of Informatics, you learn how to code. Then you go into UML and modeling and all that. Our master's experience then with Jörn in Cuba was immensely refreshing. I mean, there's one place we learned, yes, painting with a broad pencil, but or broad brush. We learned how to change the world, and that was, I think, for me, very, very important for how I related to technology and what we could do. So here we are, still trying to do that step by step.
And the wonderful thing with our network, nobody's leaving. Selle, are you here? He left, but no, not left. Are you here, Selle? Come. Because Zanzibar is also important for our history. Some are leaving, but they come back. So Zanzibar is very important, because when you heard about this DHIS2 1, DHIS2, and there had been a 3, but then Zanzibar, DHIS 4, and 1.4, sorry, 1.4. But the 1.4 was then an attempt to be more generic, supporting more countries, not only the English language and South Africa, but also being able to use more languages, but also to be more generic. So that's kind of on its way to be a bit more multi-purpose, multi-country generic platform software, VR software there. And we also have to say that Ola then was more successful than Jörn going to Cuba with the family. He took his whole family to Zanzibar, and that was, I guess, a pretty good choice.
Tough life, yeah. Maybe just a short story. We can talk more about the bugs, Kalle, but I mean, Zanzibar, I guess Jörn was the first country to pilot 1.4, so it was very interesting. I live just across the street from the ministry and the HMIS unit, in kind of a bunker container kind of office there. I spent most of the time there with this man, Sele, who was then one of the many IT guys in the HMIS unit, and I think we worked day and night in there to improve the DHIS 1.4 implementation. So it was a pleasure to work with you, Sele, and I'm really glad you're still around and supporting DHIS.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it wasn't easy in Zanzibar because, you know, it was 1.4. And most of the time, even the internet accessibility, it wasn't there. So you have to move all around the district. But the good thing is you can move around 60 districts just in the 2 hours, you know. Yeah, because Zanzibar is too small. But the good thing is when you have a place which is too small, sometimes to see the positive results, it become very easy. So, yeah.
And then Zanzibar is, as according to Tanzania, is part of the mainland. Yeah, of course, because that's why Prosper always said nobody want to come to Uganda because there's no beaches. You know, we are very, very happy with beaches. Okay, but then pilots happened in mainland Tanzania as well, in Bagamoyo and Kibaha at the same time. So how Tanzania was scaling, that will come later. But Nigeria is next. Aluka, come. Yoo-hoo. First DHS 1, but then in 12 DHS 2.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we are grateful to Kala and mostly to Otto Haywood because as at the time DHIS got to Nigeria, we were using an AP-Info software called HIFA. And so when Kala Otto got project from the DFID, he now had worked with DHIS and decided to invite Kala to come down. When Kala came, we could work 3 days, 4 days with the ministry without getting any data from the HIFA. And so we started with DHIS 1.3 and then we went on. So by 2010, although we were under the tutelage of the South African team, we decided to, because the country was big, going from one place to the other became an issue. So we decided to go to version 2, which was a web-based. And so the first academy in Tanzania at Beach Comba was the one that we went there with the idea of getting our Nigerian data file. And since then we have been there. Thank you.
Good, good, good. No.
The first time I visited
for the history,
the Central Ministry sent the guard. Sorry, they sent the sort of a guard with me. The deputy director was sent with me to watch over what I was doing. But after a week, remember they had this HIFA system. They had a warehouse full of registers or whatever. We're trying to collect 12,000 different data elements. And after 5 years, they had no data whatsoever. So that deputy director, after a week of actually seeing DHIS in action, he was convinced that this was the way to go. And I think, again, it wouldn't have been possible if it had been a traditional story with, you know, a tender and companies tendering and whatever. We could actually give them what we had, show them how to use it, and they actually bought into it. And I think more than anything else in Africa, that has been the reason why the DHIS has been spreading, because people could try it out without having to go through any kind of commercial contracting.
Thank you, Kalle. So this grassroots movement of the DHIS2 network and his network, we have never been good in tendering, but good in doing. So now we're going into a new era, which is Vietnam, 2004. Vietnam become a software partner, and in a meeting, in an event going to Vietnam, Jørn and Ola was there, and Jørn was saying, we need some free workforce. We need to make an open source course at University of Oslo so we can get some developers. And that happened. So Jørn and Ola was then making that. Do you want to say something about the Vietnam software time?
You can just,
No?
Should we call up the students from that first batch of?
That I'm about to say them. So Ola and Jørn made that course, and the first student was.
I'm not sure Jørn made it.
Jørn didn't make much, but he had the idea. Of course. Of course. But then in the first batch, Lars, student Lars, huh? Lars Øverland, Markus, Knut Staring. He was actually at that time already a PhD student, and he needed some grades for his PhD program, so he became a student also. Isn't that true, Knut? Now you remember. Ola remembered actually. He didn't remember. Lars?
Yeah, Jørn is very good at getting free labor. That's one of his key skills. And I just want to say, before we had formal education, I think we had a lot of informal education as well, because since Kalle is here, I was staying with Kalle for many years in his house in Cape Town, and that was invaluable source of information. So we got all these goodies from 1.4, and Kalle, of course, claims that everything in DHIS2 has been there in 1 forever, so that it was all in there, right? And but it's kind of true. It's a lot of the same principles, and I was fortunate enough to be with Kalle for a long time, to learn from his expertise and ask him questions. The problem is, of course, the answer might take the entire day, so you got to be a bit patient. But there's a lot to learn, so we learned a lot. And then I guess we started the open source course. Yeah, so we had a course, and then usually Jørn says, yeah, just go teach something, do something, sort it out, And then I think we took the course ourselves, and the next year we had to actually teach the same course.
And that became DHIS2, huh? In 2005-ish.
Yeah. So we kind of started. We created slides and material for all the the frameworks that we use in DHIS2. We had to teach it to people, and it actually became the most popular course in IFI.
And it still is. It still is actually. Now it's of course platform ecosystem, blah blah blah. But it still is the biggest, the most popular master program course since 2005.
Yep.
And that's DHIS2.
Yep, not bad. And Marcus was also there. You want to say something?
I still remember we were walking down the aisle and looking for a master's project together. We felt that we were a very good group from our bachelors, and we were walking down talking to different people, and we met this guy. I remember it still. Sitting there, dangling our feet on a table and talking about the world that sounded very, very different than our own. And I'm so glad that we chose to start in your project, Knut. And maybe you want to.
It was the best batch we got. We were very lucky, actually, because it's all thanks to Bologna. I don't know if most of you know this Bologna process, where they actually changed to the bachelor plus masters. So all the people who came from these colleges all over Norway suddenly could start on a master's at the university. So we got a huge crop of people, and they were very good. So here we are, thanks to Bologna.
So going from South Africa to the rest of the Southern Africa to East Africa to West Africa. Adam. I mean, Nigeria is West Africa. Sorry. Francophone West Africa. And now we are talking about Sierra Leone. We are talking about the Accra meeting, WOW collaboration, HMN. Over to you, Adam.
Yeah. Actually, before the Sierra Leone project, I had the opportunity to meet Yuan. I think it was in Brussels through a common friend, an activist actually. And then he tried to connect us to ask us to work together. It was, I think, in 2006, December. And then we say, okay, let's see how we can work together. We talk about DHIS2. And then I said, okay, at that time I was in Mali working on telemedicine's project. And I said, maybe we can do something in Mali. So I went back, I started working on a project for mobile reporting using DHIS2. And then a few months later, Yuan called me to say, there is something in Sierra Leone. Do you have availability? Can you go to Sierra Leone to work on a project starting with an assessment? I said, okay, why not? We can go, but my English is not that good. He said, oh, no, don't worry. I think you can manage. So, and then I think it was in July, yes, 2007. Then we went together to Sierra Leone for the initial assessment. The project was about integrating CRIS and DHIS2. So if today you are wondering whether the project have technical focus, then it's nothing new. Even back in the 27, it was still the focus. People are thinking on technical things. So we went there, we conducted the assessment, and it was a great opportunity for me to actually literally see information system from the Stone Age to the computerized one. Because when we went there, we were able to see, for instance, in a village where a woman had a good information system based on stones, because she was tallying the cases in a box using stones. So, and then we look at everything, we came back and we said, okay, now let's work on a proposal. So, and then Yuan said, given the context, it will be better to have a prototype, a good prototype, to show to people what can be possible. And then we sat together, we brought data that we have. I think we connected also with Knut to get some data online. He sent it. And then we set up the prototype. We went there and we show it to the people in the content. They say, wow, this is the first time we are able to do cross-analysis between program data and so forth.
Without stones.
Yes, of course.
And then Jan and Johan was also part of that. Jan, are you here? Brother? No? No, Överland Jan is not there, but Johan is. So no need to talk. No. Not everyone can talk. It's Johan.
Because we were actually funded by CRISP and the UNAIDS in Geneva, and that's the only time we have been a bit maybe not fully ethical. Because who did we meet down there? We came with CRISP, and CRISP, they thought that since we were having facility data, their district data could integrate with DHI, so they didn't understand anything. They have an aggregate by district, this CRISP. But when we were there, we met the whole delegation from HMN. That was 2007, and HMN had just started. And then we organized a workshop based on the UNAIDS money, also for HMN. And then this Geneva UNAIDS understood that we were actually selling out, using their project to kind of involve HMN. And they said, no, we will not pay for the workshop. And then it was kind of like that until the day before the workshop. And they said, okay, they said that, okay. And then HMN made, after that, since it was so fantastic, this DHIS, they made Sierra Leone their kind of priority pilot project. So that was based on some dirty tricks, Adam.
But can you just mention also the Accra meeting?
Accra meeting was a bit later. That Bob was also there, if I'm not remembering wrongly. It was something WHO and also CDC and others, they called it the open source toolkit. And it was this Iris, and it was DHIS, and some different softwares. And it was a very nice conference in Accra. And what the story point is that Tommy Carr from WAHO, West Africa Health Organization, he was there and heard about we had actually implemented DHIS in Sierra Leone. I mean, that was not far long after the civil war. And he said, if it's possible to implement DHIS in Sierra Leone, it will be possible all over West Africa. And yeah.
And he happened to be true.
Also.
Happened to be true. Manya, can you come up? Because the next very, very important point was Kenya. Kenya. And apropos Kalle talking about being there, the whole software team was there to try to implement the DHIS2 in Kenya. 4 people. Whole team was 4 people. Because at that time, we just got funding from NORAD. We got core funding. So when we're talking about 30 years anniversary, we could also talk about 30 years struggle for funding. We got our first funding in 2010. And we had then we had money to pay salaries for Ola, Lars, Morten, and Jan. And they went to Kenya. And they went to Kenya to scale DHIS2 for Kenya. And the key learning from Kenya. Who will tell that story, Lars or Manya?
No, I think I just want to make one confession. And then I'll give it to Lars. When we started DHIS2, I asked Yon, where is our data? And they told us, up there in the clouds. Cloud computing was just maybe starting. So I actually, up to now, I'm still wondering how data would sit on the clouds. And so for the first time, although I really talk so much ill about people who make decisions without information, I made a decision to host our data on the clouds without knowing what was cloud computing.
Yeah, I mean, I think for once, like we were a bit lucky with the timing for Kenya. I remember Jörn and I, we went on a district field trip to kind of work with the end users and get feedback straight from the districts. And we sat there and typed in data on the online cloud DHIS2, and then suddenly, of course, power went out. You know, it's like boom, dark. And then we thought, okay, that's it. You know, we got to go home now and like get in the car. And suddenly the guy just like turns up his laptop, takes his dongle from his shirt, and injects the mobile dongle, like the Safaricom one, into his laptop, and like continues to type as if nothing happened. He was like, what? What just happened? And this was like totally normal for these guys, but this was a time when sort of mobile internet came to East Africa. And I would say that was really a success factor for us. It was a good timing. Timing was right. And it really enabled us to scale quickly. And I remember that since we kind of mimicked the paper forms in DHIS2, people started capturing data without any training. Like people just entered data. We gave them like the URL and the username and the password, and then 2 days later, the data was in. I mean, we haven't even done any training. So it was like really easy to scale. And I think that was a trick. It was easy, simple, online, and people had mobile internet. And it scaled very, very quickly. Of course, we had trainings, but it scaled very quickly.
And that started the revolution in a way, because we had the academy started already in Dar in 11, but however, the very, very framing conference and academy in Mombasa in 12, then all the countries then learned from Kenya, what Kenya was able to do in very short time, going online for the scaling to the whole country with mobile internet and cloud services. That created a lot of inspiration and aspiration. And I have to tell, when Cloud, the Minister of Health, is still working in the Minister of Health, our very dear friend, he was traveling with me, Manya, and Jörn to visit facilities. Do you remember? And then he was asked, so when did you start with DHIS2? He was asked. Oh, back in the 2006 or whatever, and you're still not scaled. And he was so embarrassed, and he went home, and it took 1 year, and then DHIS2 was scaled in the whole country using mobile internet in Tanzania as well. So, but not only Tanzania, but other countries like Uganda. Come, Prosper. Rwanda. Adolf, are you here? Adolf here? No? Okay. And Ghana was scaling very fast, inspired by the success and the speed and the exposure in the academy. And then we learned that academies, you all know about academies. This is not an academy. This is a conference. But all about the academy, we thought it was training. No, it's inspiration, learning South-South. Inspiration and aspiration, what is possible. And then all the countries in that conference went home for implementing and doing the same.
Yeah. Yeah, so just before that, to mention that Kara was my lecturer at Western Cape for the DHIS2 one. So I went into the network before then. But the story for Uganda was really an amazing one, because after learning from Kenya, we actually used Kenya to come and train us to start, and Ula and the team. But what was very impressive in Uganda was that we were able to roll out in 4 months and covering the entire country, just 4 months. Every district, 120 districts were up and running. But without analytics, Scott, the analytics that we only had was the reports, which many people don't use right now. Reports, my data mart, we were talking about my data mart, and somebody was like, what is that? The key thing for Uganda, HISP Uganda, has been really a source of ideas to be able to stress the developers here. For Uganda, that's where we started the SMS idea, and we tested and implemented there. The first logistics system with us for ARVs, for PEPFAR, was also in that period, and generating reports, and went on the case-based surveillance for the global health security, and the EMIS for the education also in that. So it's been quite an interesting area for learning. I may say we've not have been able to scale most of these things so widely, but it has really informed the way DHIS2 has been developing.
Thank you, Prosper. And then Ghana, Kane, Ola, where are you? Come, are you here? Ola, wait, please. You see what? Look it up, okay. So then we have Ghana, and the fun story, it's a bit different with Ghana, because Olav, did you come? Yeah, Olav is there. You don't want to say anything. Come. No, it can be over there if you want to. The support for Ghana, this is Oswald, Ghana Health Services, but also the last HISP group from this year. Clap, you can clap. We are doing timeline, but however, we want to just mention the easiness that Olav's master project was to support the scaling of DHIS2 for the whole Ghana. That was his master project. I'm just saying that. And that also created a lot of inspiration. Is it that easy to do that in a country? That was also kind of a key learning for countries. And Prosper was mentioning the mobile projects and utilizing mobile. We have to say that in 2010-11, we started the DHIS2 for mobile with extensive studies in Nigeria, in India, with implementation, and the whole community. We met all of us. Ismail, are you here? Ismail, he was then, just think about how young he was at that time. He was then aspiring master student. We have Marta later coming in. I mean, that's the second generation of the mobile project. Marta, come. Marta. Because she, as a result, some generation later, the Android team was formed. Rangari Rai, are you here? Do we see Ranga? Oh, he's because he's DJing, so we will talk to Ranga later. Rangari Rai, he was the only PhD student that we had to pay for his DJ equipment for him to come to Norway. It's true. So this makes all So this DHIS2 for mobile, we also actually, Jason was the first time we met Jason because he had this mobile project in Zambia, and we all met in Vietnam on the mobile academy. Very, very good hosting from Hung, from his Vietnam. And that was also very framing for the community feeling that we were all there working on how can we support DHIS2 with whatever you have in the pocket, whether it's SMS, feature phones, later Android. SMS still work. We still need SMS for really outreach services. So Zimbabwe could be mentioned, but Rangarerai is outside warming up. But Zimbabwe was where had the largest mobile project and also become a HIS group in 23. So the growing network, now we are speeding up, people thinking about the time, but we are speeding now up on the growing network because now it's happening a lot. Bangladesh, we are only in 13. Hanan. Of course, winning all the competition when they come the largest scale of any system. The largest tracker, the largest implementation of whatever DHIS2 implementation. And then Indonesia, 14. Rati, can you come up? Indonesia is very, very interesting. Do you want to, Rati is not here? Okay. So they are not in the room, but it's very, very interesting because it was starting as a dashboard and a data use project. And then we have the first Latin America HIS group formed. In 2013, the first Spanish-speaking academy, facilitated by the two over in the corner here, the very Spanish speaker, Knut, speak whatever language, but Marta more natural. However, supporting the Latin America implementations. Colombia, Marco, are you here? Marco is here, of course. Good, good, good. Welcome, welcome. Come on the stage. But then maybe Adam could say something about the West African growth of activities that started off as becoming partners on the West and Central Africa, but lately, last year, becoming HIS groups. You want to say something about the DRC, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire?
Yep. In fact, we started as HIS West and Central Africa, supporting many countries at that time because we didn't have a lot of implementers. And then as the number of countries are growing and also the demands are also coming in countries and so forth, and then there were people asking, why can't we have the local HIS group, or we need more support in the countries and so forth. And then at the same time, in Mali, for instance, there was this measure evaluation project supporting the DHIS2 implementation, and the project was ending. There was no one there to support. And we said, okay, why not set up a team there to keep the work and keep the DHIS2 up and running? And that's how we started working with Ismail and his team, and the HIS Mali team was set up.
Ismail, come on the scene. Mali. Patty, are you here? Patty, DRC?
Patty, yeah, he's coming.
Yeah, coming.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
for yeah, so for Patty, as you know, DRC is like a subcontinent, and the demand there is very huge. They have a lot of programs, a lot of partners working on DHIS2 related activities, and we said, okay, maybe it's time to have a permanent basis in DRC, and then we work together with Patty and his team to set up also his DRC.
Super, thank you. Then we're going more big countries, but also in population. Pakistan, Adnan. Now we are 2019. We are getting closer. So Pakistan, super big interest. So many projects going on. Very much looking forward to further collaboration with the HIS Pakistan. But then we need to speed up a bit. Then Palestine. Mohammed. All of our eyes and thoughts and support are by Gaza and our peers. So his MENA is new. His MENA is from last year, but the work in Palestine started already in 14. 14 with Mike, Marcus. Mike, come. Together with the Public Health Institute and WHO, working on supporting Palestine and Gaza, West Bank to have a public health institute, but also the first tracker implementation. So the whole tracker was in a way made as Palestine as a use case for maternal and child health registry and system. So that's kind of thanks to the implementations in Gaza and West Bank, the tracker was kind of having their birth. Then nice to have you back. So Mohammed was also part of that one, but then working in the WHO. So that's what I'm saying. Nobody is leaving. Okay, the HIS group's presentation is a bit over, but we need to talk about partners and investments. And I'm looking a bit serious. I'm talking about the struggle to convince partners that DHIS2 is a global good. DHIS2 as a core need to be supported in order to be able to support 88 countries. And look at these guys. And we have 60-ish developers also supporting all the countries there is. So the most important, I know that Nora never want to go to the stage, so you can sit where you are. But the three-party agreement formed in 2000, let's say 13, by NORAD, Global Fund, and PEPFAR was extremely important. And actually, we laid the way for the whole DPG, Digital Global Public Good, work. And so to be able to have these three partners, and we have partner meeting and investors all every year. And they recruited more and more and more people, but now we see a tendency to going the other way. How can we support? Why should we send all our money to UIO when we can support countries? Do you want to comment there?
No, actually, I wanted to have Sam from Laos to come to the stage. Also.
Yeah, because Sam, because you're not a HIS group, you're under HIS Vietnam. Sam, please, Lao. Can Sam also come? So, talking about the struggle to become, to have people to support the platform, because when we have this successful conference with the nearly 400 participants, you might believe that we are loaded in money and there is a lot of interest to finance us with all success in all these countries. It's not really nearly true. Because even though, no, I see that from my script, I've forgotten one thing. The beauty of having a group of investors is actually during the pandemic, we were able to mobilize reorganization of the funds, but also new funds, like especially NORAD, to be able to support the pandemic. Sean, I'm seeing you, but is Pamod first say a couple of sentences about the pandemic work in Sri Lanka? Because the investors made it possible for us to actually mobilize this whole network to support all the countries with all the means we had, all the global resources, and all the good collaboration, the trust, and the sharing of every innovations. We were able to then to support over 60 countries for disease surveillance and vaccine delivery. Pamod, it all started in Sri Lanka.
Yeah. However, the pandemic started, as we all know, in China. So, so the thing is, in January 2020, like there was a lot of noise about this rapidly spreading virus, which by then it was called neo coronavirus. And like, I mean, we were all talking about it. It's really rapidly spreading because Sri Lanka, again, is a country in South Asia with tourism and all that. We were worried. So that's when we were able to have this informal discussion with the Ministry of Health. And that was made possible based on something that was initiated more than a decade ago. So as Christy mentioned initially, in 2009, it was possible. Sri Lanka was able to design a master's program in health informatics in University of Colombo. And the products of this master's program, the medical doctors specialized in health informatics, they were in the ministry, national level, as well as districts all around the country. So that's why, I mean, I'm glad to see some of them in the audience as well. So with that collaboration and discussions, we were able to design something within like days. Initially to monitor the port of entry, at port of entry, how people are coming. And then this I posted in DHIS2 Slack. And then with that, we were able to get support from this entire HISP community. There was a lot of feedback. And with all that, in 4 months' time, we were able to develop, the virus was spreading, pandemic was evolving, so we were evolving, and we were able to create so many different modules. And finally, with vaccination, the entire population, adult population of Sri Lanka, around 16 million, we were able to import into DHIS2. Of course, with that, we had a lot of issues related to the performance and all, and that's where the entire community and the UIO was able to help. Yeah.
And all the innovation that was made during that hackathon in March 2020 was shared among the whole network and reused and being bettering and being domesticated for all the speciality for each country. So that's a big hand for that work. So, Sean, can you come up? Because we want to prepare ourselves for the new trends in investments, because the trend is now, we cannot send money for UIO. The trend is sending money to the countries. So what we are doing now, what's new now? Sean, come up. The new now is that we are making 2 hubs. One HISP Asia, one HISP Africa. I'm just putting Sean up because he's also part of the discussion that we had last week on the HISP Africa hub. How can we then take the collaboration to the next level, utilizing whatever we did during pandemic and we do during climate health, sharing, but also preparing for being able to take part in tenders, because we normally are sole source. Not so many sole source opportunities left. We need to fight together with the others to show that what's happening in the country should stay in the country. The capacity should be in the countries. That's why we have formed 2 hubs to prepare ourselves to be able to solve the problem of financing going to the countries and being able to use the best capacity we have in the country, because we don't really have server competence in each HISP group. That is kind of distributed a bit. We have many competences that are kind of a little bit here and a little bit there, and together we are super strong. Prosper?
Yeah, thank you very much, Christine. Standing with my elder, this is HISP South Africa. Our elder, we always look out to HISP South Africa, and in front of the HISP groups here, we want to appreciate Global Fund, Geneva, that started this concept of the hubs. And by then we had 3 hubs 3 years ago that have done a fantastic job in terms of collaborating the efforts around the health system strengthening in the 2 regions, in the 2 continents, that has now led to a merger and the birth of a new baby called HISP Africa. So HISP Africa is a consortium of all the HISP groups here in Africa, working together, collaborating together to deliver and support you as partners, as funders, as clients, as competitors, in a better way that we can be able to deliver and improve the health system strengthening. So a lot is coming, but we want to announce that we are now one and we are working in collaboration, strengthen each other. As you see the network, wherever there is weakness, we lift up. Wherever there is borrowing and sharing and all that will be what we aim to do in the HISP Africa. So welcome on board HISP Africa.
So that's the newest HISP group. We also have HISP Asia. HISP Asia actually started a couple of years ago, but HISP Africa is actually from this year. So that's really, should be the last one, but sorry. John?
HISP Asia Hub, like we are thankful for Global Fund to organizing this Asia Hub. So we have 7 members. HISP MENA was our last member, joined last year. So I want to announce, want to take this opportunity to also announce we have our 3rd HISP Asia conference in October 1st this year. So where we had, last year we had the conference in Sri Lanka, but this year we also are having conference in Vietnam, Da Nang. Similar kind of conference, but focusing only on Asia region, where we want to have the challenges and user experience share across different countries so that we can support each other very well and also collaborate among our HISP group and countries on learning best practices and also not reinventing the same wheel again and again. Yeah, thank you.
Super, thank you. So last but not least, now we are talking about the HISP network, all the HISP group, how this has been formed by education. We all believe in education. We all believe in capacity building in countries. But we shouldn't forget the ministries. So who are we actually supporting? That's the ministries, and it's no matter whether it's education, health, agriculture, but what we are actually doing is to supporting the government. We are working hard, as one of the sessions said, to be a global digital public good, to build this digital public infrastructure, to support the ministries, the government, to be able to handle the challenges, the societal challenges, to be able to govern better and to take better decisions. So that is our actually last word for this before the party starts. And it starts in, oh no, there is a photo first. And Alice would kill me if I didn't tell you. We are, after this one, we are going out. If we can wear the t-shirt. I will try to put the t-shirt on. And then we are doing photography before we can use our coupons. And listen to Ranga and the Senegal band and everything. So, Kalle want to say something?
Point out 2 observations that you might have made. One is negative, and I'm not talking about that there's so little hair here. But one is negative, and that is obviously the gender balance, right? And what I can say from knowing many of his groups is that, you know, in the countries, they are better. But yeah, here it sucks. Yeah. But a positive observations that you might also made, there is not a single tie in sight. And I think actually, I mean, we often don't talk about culture, right? But I think one reason for this community having worked out well is that we are very informal. And I can't even recall having heard anyone within the DHIS2 community tell others that, hey, I got a PhD or you only have a master, so you go and shut up. Or tell them that, yeah, I'm higher than you in the ministry, so you better shut up. So I think no tie, very good. Thank you.
But gender balance, not good.
Thank you, Kalle. At one point, I thought you said men Thai people, so I was a bit shocked, but it was... I don't even know what a Thai is. Sorry. So thank you so much for listening in to our very long 30 years of history, how we ended up here. And congratulations to all of us. Thank you. It was 1 hour. We started 15 minutes late, so it became 1 hour.
All right, so as Kristen mentioned, we're going to be taking a big group photo outside. If you'd like to wear your t-shirt, we encourage that. We also have a message that someone left their laptop in room 1 today. So if you're missing a laptop, please talk to us over at the information desk, and we'll see you outside.